Welcome to another episode of the Pit Stop Pals, episode 22 with Nielson and Gage. Lights out. We're in North America, United States Grand Prix. We're about to break it down. It's all part of the Nielson Media Coolbet Network. We will get to your Pit Stop Pals podium in just a moment for Mobil 1 synthetic oil. And, of course, our partners at Mr. Lube do a little bit of trivia a little bit later on as well for a gift certificate to Mr. Lube. So make sure you are listening and watching for that. Gager? Little afternoon racing here in North America. It's interesting, right?
Little afternoon delight, yes, with the racing. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, Dusty. It's
I prefer the mornings, buddy. I'm not gonna lie.
I prefer it when everyone's asleep. It's just me. I had everything going on in the background. I almost went to the headphones at one point. But no, it was still a great race. I was leery about just the fact that Max was already champion. Looks like Red Bull's going to win the constructors.
Yeah,
and obviously they did right away with, and we'll get to it. But lots of things happening, lots of excitement. Came down to the end again with a few a bad pit stop. So I had the heart rate was probably about 130, 135 throughout the latter part of that race.
And you know that because you're wearing your watch. That's how you get that done. Yeah. You know what? The one thing before we get into Pit Stop Pals podium, I thought the broadcast did a great job of it. And I guess it's probably just how that track is. I'd like to go there and see it myself. It's like when you hear about the Masters, everybody goes, you should see the elevation at the Masters. Like, TV doesn't do it justice. If you're at the Masters, it's like this. It's crazy. And, TV kind of did this one justice, Gager. But, like, just the start of the race, boom, right up the hill. Like, it was, and when you were watching practice and stuff, I was like, man, I totally, not that, I've only watched this Grand Prix, I guess, twice now. But I was just like, my God, this is a very hilly race. I'd love to be there to see it and really get a feel for it myself.
Well, yeah, because you could kind of see that was a massive hill off the top. And we saw what happened at the first turn with the chaos that ensued. But yeah, and even the drivers, it was funny listening to them talk about this track and how bumpy it is too. And IndyCar drivers think it's one of the smoothest. It's like a pool table to them. So it's kind of funny. But just the hills and the different. Yeah. I think this would, I never thought about going to Austin, but to see, what was it, 435,000 people over that weekend, that would have been such a good time to be in the paddock for these 3 days, Dusty. So we might have to add Austin into one of our stops.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually have like 5 different Grand Prix in the States, right? Mixing Canada. Who knows? I mean, got to be tough on get this guy, but like Vancouver has Formula One City written all over it too, right? So there's a lot of different options out there. But Austin, when I saw the track, I was just like, man, you don't see, you got your road courses and your night courses, but the elevation on that racetrack just seemed rather ridiculous, to be honest with you. So,
and I think where it is outside of Austin too, the wind plays.
There was a lot of people talking about the wind. Yeah,
Max for the first 15 laps saying how hard it was. Didn't look like it, but how hard it was to negotiate a lot of those turns because of the gusty.
Do you know how hard it is to almost lap the entire field in 14 laps? Like, come on, my goodness, you got to be better than that. All right, let's dive into our Pit Stop Pals podium for the United States Grand Prix, brought to you by Mobil 1 and Mr. Lube. Mobil 1 doesn't just keep your vehicle running, it keeps your engine running like new. Have your Mobil 1 synthetic oil change completed at Mr. Lube. Same day oil change and tire service. No appointment necessary at Mr. Lube. Gager, starting at the top. Red Bull, as expected, it was just a matter of time. They lock up a Constructors' Championship, an emotional weekend. One of their founders and co-owners passing away at the age of 78. But once again, I mean, just an impressive run and an impressive season. In fact, sucking a lot of life out of the season, considering what we thought might be possible at the beginning of the year with Ferrari to what we ended up getting with Red Bull.
Yeah, just a dominant season for Red Bull. Little bit clouded with going over the cap a little bit, Dusty, taints a little bit of their mastery this season. But again, they've done. It's not only their drivers and their car, but coming down to the pit stop crew and being under 2.5 seconds. They're the best crew in the pits. Their strategy, has Red Bull had a bad strategy at all this year? I don't think so. They've always hit the mark. So again, you hear about it's such a team effort, and that constructors kind of championship, I think it really gives it to everyone on the team that what they've done. So hats off to them. Unbelievable job by Red Bull. But and to hear Dietrich passing away, all these young drivers that he's given their start to, it's pretty sad to hear this, that he's given a lot of these guys their starts. You saw Sebastian Vettel not even want to really get into how he felt because he had to kind of decompress and look at the whole situation before he said something on it. So really kind of a cool way to go out with the constructors, and I'm sure Dietrich would have been happy.
Well, I thought the last 14 laps or whatever just summed up the season, right? Like Red Bull rolls in, Verstappen's been cruising, and that front left tire is on, and they couldn't get it on properly, and you see that clock just ticking, and you're going, oh man, here comes Lewis. And it's just over 11 seconds of being stopped, get back out of the pits, and pretty early, right after they came out, and he was behind Leclerc, right? He came out right behind Charles Leclerc as well. And then they see 7.6 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. And, in any other year, you'd be like, well, that's good enough for Lewis Hamilton. He's not going to blow a 7.6 second lead. But this year, knowing what we know about the Red Bull, it was inevitable. You're like, oh, you're probably going to be about 15 seconds ahead of him if you're going to hang on in the last 14 laps. And sure enough, I mean, just a predator, a shark, tracking him down, eventually got by him. Lewis put up a little bit of a fight, but kind of just summed it up, man. That Red Bull car is just too damn good. You can't stop it.
I would have loved to have it gotten down to, lap 2, 1.5 laps.
I know, I was hoping it would last a little longer.
I was, you know me, Dusty, I had the second screen on in the 3 sectors, and Lewis, the third sector, he was actually doing a little bit better than Max. So he was still but after a while, Max was just chewing away. The first sector, second sector, it was probably about 4/10 every time. And then they got down to 5 laps. He'll be in striking distance. Yeah, like you said, Lewis put up a slight fight, but knew that he just couldn't hold off Max. I wondered about the tire choice, if Lewis could have gone to the mediums, but even then, I don't think it would have made much of a difference at that point. The way the track was and how much rubber was laid down, the hards did quite well in a track that has really high tire degradation, right? They were all complaining about those front lefts, and you could actually see, it was great on the helmet cam. To watch Max, I went right to Max and watched him reel in Lewis, and you could see Lewis, the back, his back tires were just, he was sliding.
They didn't have it,
He didn't have it. He was trying so hard to stay ahead. Like, he worked really hard to win.
I wanted him to get one, buddy.
It was sad. I try to be impartial with these things, but I was rooting for Lewis to get one. I think it would have been cool.
It's Sidney Crosby getting a breakaway tonight at the blue line, and McDavid's at the red line, and he gets back and lifts his stick and goes the other way and scores. I mean, that's basically what that felt basically, like, in my opinion. All right, let's get to the second spot on the Mr. Lou Mobile One Pit Stop Pals podium, and we go straight to the beginning of this race. I mean, thought maybe there could be some chaos, but George Russell wasn't messing around. Get out of my Carlos Sainz. Poor Carlos Sainz, man. That sucks.
Well, he gets on pole, right? perfect. It looks like he's gonna do something at the front of the pack, and then George Russell just completely torpedoes him in that first corner and puts him. I thought maybe he'd get back in the race. I was really sad, not only for my fantasy pool, but just for him personally to see when he goes into the pits, because he said he had a puncture, and then they're reeling that thing into the garage there. So 5-second penalty for George didn't really hinder him, because then he had those safety cars come out, right? So he could take
he was fine in the end. Yeah, it didn't hurt him at all.
Just fine. And we were talking last Pit Stop Pals, Dusty, about George Russell and how these last kind of 10 races we've seen some just on the radio and what's been said and how he's acting. I think there's a little bit of pressure getting to George Russell.
You think so?
The last bit of the year, he's not doing as well as he did at the start, and I think it just seems like he's not the same driver. I find that he was at the start, just a little bit more complaining and not. It just doesn't look. He doesn't have that confidence.
Hasn't really been going his way lately, right?
No,
he's not handling that well.
Well, I think it's, from all accounts, it's a lot easier when your teammate is having issues and you're not, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, but to see Lewis kind of, he's consistently ahead of him in qualifying, like he's putting in better lap times, and I think he's putting a little bit of pressure on the young guy here. So really something. I hate to say it, because I know we're getting to the end of the season and we're going to have to wait, but really interesting testing next March and seeing what Mercedes, what their car looks like, and B, what it's going to look like between Lewis and George.
Well, let's continue that conversation, because right now Lewis is 20 points back of George. Who's like, do you view either of these guys as the true number one into next season, or is at this point you still kind of have to approach it as a 1A and 1B situation?
I think a lot depends on these last few races.
Yeah.
Lewis was beaming about the upgrades that Mercedes had brought, right? So, and a lot of these things I was reading, they said are going forward. They're looking really forward to the next year, and to see, they're closer to the front two, I think, with Ferrari and Red Bull, but there's a big gap. I think they've distanced themselves from the McLaren and Alpines, I think, a little bit with these new upgrades. So encouraging for them. They're not quite there, but to see the way Lewis is talking about the car, he's almost rejuvenated a little bit, right? Still hard to drive. He's not saying it's a perfect ride, but it's going to be cool next year for sure. I would have to, right now, Dusty, if you were to ask me, I'd say Lewis is definitely their number one driver.
You are going to be so excited to see the new Mercedes car next year. Hey, like, see what they decide to do for design. Oh God.
Oh yeah, it's
if you lose your mind.
There's lots of cars I'm looking forward to. Yeah. Really, like it's going to be great.
All right, third place on the Pit Stop Pals podium for Mobile One and Mr. Lube. Gage, where do you want to go here? You want to go to Aston Martin?
Yeah, let's go to Aston Martin. Like, a really good qualifying. We saw what Lance was able to do with the car, and like we were like, what? I think you even texted me on the road, Stroll.
I think it was just Lance Stroll ? Like,
yeah. So, kind of interesting to see them, and it's always nice. Like, I'm silently cheering for Sebastian Vettel to maybe hit the podium on one of these things at the end. And it seems, I don't know, I just find that they're moving up slowly with their performance in races. A lot of that has to do with whatever else is happening, but really encouraging, because I think a lot of people like you and me, Dusty, that kind of new to the sport, I've become a fan of Alonso for sure. And we know that he's going to Aston Martin next year. And we know how good that Alpine car is. And I thought, is he taking a step back? But now to see Aston Martin take a few steps, And
kind of
the
excited
collision,
to see Alonso in an Aston Martin next year.
I'm the Mercedes car, but I think number 2 would, you have to see Alonso in that Aston Martin. I'm excited to see that, and to see the future 2 teammates crash.
Welcome
That
to your future, Alonso.
just add a little bit more spice to the teammate for. I'm sure Drive to Survive will touch on that before the season.
That is your Pit Stop Pals podium today. Gage, what else jumped off the page? What else is on the big board there?
Well, we talked about the pit stop, the worst pit stop of the year for Red Bull and Max getting a.
Who else possibly has an 11-second pit stop and still has any sniff of winning a race?
They're done. They're absolutely done. And to see him just reel it in. We talked about the Tim Cook flag waving.
Tim
Cook. I almost went to a Samsung Galaxy after seeing that kind of enthusiasm waving a checkered flag. That's not what's happening there. That was absolutely terrible. I just interesting race to have everything kind of settled here. I guess what we're kind of looking at is the Charles and Checo. Now that Max is, it's weird now. So if I'm trying to put scenarios in my head for the next race, Checo's going home to Mexico. It's his home race. Max is trying to get one more win. What happens, Dusty? What does Christian Horner do if it's 1-2 with a lap left or 2 laps left? They're way ahead, and Checo is ahead of Max.
They ask for Max to go by 100%, which would be such BS. No, you can't do that. You can't do that to Checo at his home race, man. You couldn't do it.
That's as soon as this race ended, that's what I thought. I thought we were going to see this, and Checo's going to be ahead, and Max to take the. Well, we'll see. We'll see. This will be good because he does well at his home race too. Like, he does really quite well. So this is going to be great.
I just Googled Tim Cook F1 flag waving, and just some of the headlines from Business Insider. Tim Cook F1 flag waving trolled for being boring and enthusiastic. From The Drive, Apple CEO Tim Cook performs lamest flag wag ever, which is good. I think there was one that says, where is it? This was a classic. Yeah. Tim Cook technically waved the checkered flag.
Yeah.
But you're sitting there. There's 435,000 people who've made their way throughout the weekend, and you're standing there. Like, you know what he looked like? He looked like he was surrendering to Samsung. That's what it looked like.
If I'm Samsung, that's brilliant, Dusty. If I'm Samsung, I'm doing that right now. We surrender. You guys win. You guys
win. I don't know how you couldn't be losing your shit.
Yeah. No, like with all the celebrities there, like Brad Pitt's in the pit with Bruckheimer and stuff, and it was like, very Shaq in his massive Cadillac that still looks too small for him. But the one things that was weird for me, again, for my fantasy pool, with Alonso taking a 30-second penalty for the release of an unsafe car that affected him. He went from 7th to 14th place and lost a considerable amount of points for Alpine, which really sucks. And then I'm like, is that fair? Like, a 30-second penalty, it doesn't seem fair when you see George Russell torpedo Carlos Sainz, knocking him out of the race. And it just, the punishment didn't seem to fit the crime in that situation. And I know it's dangerous to release a car that's unsafe on track, but I just thought the way that Fernando was able to come back after basically taking flight off of Stroll's car and still finishing that race, that he was punished way too hard for what he was able to accomplish that race and then have that happen. I was a little bit sad for him.
Did you see Martin Brundle get waved off by Brad Pitt?
Yeah. There's a little article about not there's certain celebrities that you're not supposed to talk, but Brundle doesn't care.
No, Brundle doesn't care. He did. Remember last year when he called Pancaro, the basketball player, Patrick Mahomes? Was it what it was? When he walked right by, it was just a mess. I mean, he's hilarious. But are you a Brad Pitt guy? Because he's doing the F1 movie. Are you a big fan of Brad Pitt or what?
I'm gonna watch the movie if that's what you're asking. Of course, I'll watch it. But I find that annoying that if you're going to go to a sporting event and be in the pit row, but and you can say something, that's a little bit. I don't know.
You should get to know that community a little bit, shouldn't you?
Well, you're doing a movie about it. I mean, if you,
who plays Martin Brundle?
Yeah, I'm sure they should have something in there with that, but it just seemed like, you know what, you're not the star here. Like most people are here to watch the race in the cars, not to. I know Brad Pitt's a big deal, but could have done better. Do better, Brad.
All right, let's give away a gift certificate to Mr. Lube. Once again, huge shout out to both Mr. Lube and Mobile One. And this gift certificate will get you a standard oil change or the premium synthetic package with Mobile One, valued at almost $140. All you have to do to get your hands on one of these bad boys is slide into my DMs with the correct answer to this question. And just on Nielson TSN 1260, slide in my DMs. Give me the answer. You can also email me, nielsonmedia@gmail.com if you're not into the whole Twitter DM thing, which is totally fine. How many, this ties into my love of pretending to be Finnish. How many Finnish drivers have won the United States Grand Prix? All right. Ooh. Just hit us up in the inbox. How many Finnish drivers have won the United States Grand Prix? Send me how many, send me their names, and if you're right, you'll go into a draw, and we'll get you one of these. I still have some of these kicking around, but it's like $25 to ship one of these hats. So maybe we'll have these for pickup at TSN 1260 or something. But we got a nice little prize pack for you here. So I have to just slide my DMs and answer. How many Finnish drivers have won the United States Grand Prix? Gage, are you still on helmet cam duty from this past race, or are you moving on already?
Well, I'm going to watch a little bit more of the Max Lewis was exciting to watch. I'll probably watch the Alonso stuff and look into these Aston Martins a little bit too. But I'm halfway to Mexico, Dusty. So it's, I don't know.
Well, stay safe, and we'll talk to you when you get back, buddy. See you later, man.
Thanks, man.